he floods the economy with money. What does that do? What will that do to the housing market level? Yeah, with money, and this may exacerbate, worsen, aggravate the housing bubble. So it's like, what do you do now? Are you with me so far? This is a classic situation facing China too. You know, I mean, China, all these countries that have essentially got housing markets acting really weird, but demand's falling, the Keynesian switch is turned off. Like, we can't increase M. Are you with me so far? Let's look at the exchange market, the exchange rate scenario.
I wanted to know, when you talk about Singapore output, talking about GDP?
Yes, yes, real inflation.
But the Singapore is not real production output, right? It's not like a manufacturing output and all of those things. But how you still consider that the same kind of the way to be able to stimulate the output?
Exactly. So what you have in Singapore is a huge question. So what you have in Singapore is there's so much, people think Singapore is mostly a service-oriented economy, but it's not. Singapore is very big in manufacturing, in chemicals, and electronics, and pharmaceuticals. So I came to Singapore the first time in 1993 thinking, okay, I'm looking at a service economy. The more I've studied Singapore, the more I found that there's a service sector, but there's also a very huge and strong and high-end manufacturing sector. Very interesting. So
what's the breakdown?
I would say something like 60%.
Really?
Yeah, interestingly.
It's around 60%.
Yeah, around 60%. Now, what happened for you, when China started coming, Singapore said, oh my gosh, we need to get out of manufacturing, because whatever we do, China's going to grab. The casino comes. I'm like, guys, so I was not a fan of the casino. How's the casino doing, by the way?
It's doing good.
Best washing machine in the world.
Oh man, so I was like, you know, it's a nice, wholesome, family-oriented country, kids running around late at night, zero crime, and casino, all the wolves will, remember I was railing against it?
That's true, you were totally against it, but what you said was, I mean, it's true, the crime increased, but only thing, it brings up business, so both increased, business as well as crime.
Illegal money, illegal money.
Well, you know what my next policy is going to be? I've built on what this gentleman said. Go mad on education. Safe country, safe for kids, low pollution. One thing you have that China doesn't have, a place where the world will send their kids. You will not send your kids to Beijing.
Yeah, and it is happening.
And so it is happening, but make it 10 times as big. So develop a whole part of Singapore which will be nothing but school, a whole zone, like a mini city. And what you have is India, China, Malaysia, Indonesia. There are lots of rich people suddenly. With this new trade boom, the middle class, the upper middle class can afford it. We in Rutgers, by the way, are recruiting undergraduates from China, coming to New Jersey. Singapore, cheaper, cleaner, safer, and you have something that China does not have, and it's an intangible. You can't hold it in your hand. I can't draw this on the board. It's this safe zone. If you want to send your kids, you will send your kids here. You know, Beijing, Shanghai are great, but you'll send your kids here. And so that's your next big thing, is what I'm thinking. Better than the casino, which still drives me crazy.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on medical tourism. Tourism revenues of $5 billion in the next few years.
Medical tourism, but this is huge. Think of all the kids. I mean, double the number of kids you get. But I'm going to come back to that later on. So here we are. Let's look at exchange. Thank you. That was a great question. Thank you. Let's look at exchange rate management. And so here we go. And so, second term, what to do, what policy to adopt regarding the exchange rate. So you guys tell me now, as this curve starts moving to the left, let's say the exchange rate now is what, is 1.2, let's call it 1.25 to 1.
Yes.
let's make a nice round number. Okay, so let's say this is the exchange rate peg, the pegged exchange rate right now. And so this is another big exchange rate trap that Singapore is going to be in. So what would happen as the economy starts slowing, purchasing managers index falls, confidence falls, inflation falls, what will happen as the economy starts slowing, some capital will flow out of the country, and as the economy slows, the Sing dollar will tend to weaken. Capital tends to flow out. And Singapore dollar tends to weaken. Let's just make it 1.3 to 1. And now you guys tell me, what would happen if MAS decides to keep with this peg of 1.25 to 1, what will they have to do? The market wants a Sing dollar to go to 1.3 to 1. If the Monetary Authority of Singapore wants to keep a hard peg, what will they have to do in the economy? Come on, can you help me here? You have to buy what and sell what. Help me with that. You want to artificially make
Buy Sing dollar, sell